How many of you have tried Myers-Briggs, DISC, Strength Finders, or other personality profiling systems, but when you did, while the assessments were interesting, you found out there was something missing? Well, it's not surprising given the fact that Myers-Briggs and DISC were actually created back in the 1940s, over 70 years ago.
The biggest issue most people encounter is now what? Once you have the assessment, how are you going to use it? How are you going to use it to hire talent, improve innovation, and resolve employee conflicts?
Well, hello and welcome to our session on Discover Tips, Thinkergy's personality profiling system that takes the best of those programs and updates it for the 21st century with actionable takeaways. This session will give you a great overview of Thinkergy and tips and share how you can use these for your company. So before we begin, let's introduce our facilitators for today. I'm Kevin Ellinger-Wild. I'm the Chief Creation Officer of Thinkergy US.
And I'm Judy Zimmer, Chief Coachologist at coachology.us. Let's get started and introduce Thinkergy, where we know how to wow.
So first, Thinkergy was started by Dr. Detlef Rice, or as we call him, Dr. D. He began his career in banking back in with Deutsche Bank back in Germany, and he eventually became the Vice President of Global Banking in Bangkok, in the Asian market. However, Dr. D is an idea person, and new ideas in banking aren't really a good fit. So he began doing research and studying creativity and innovation. And he studied under people like Dr. De Bono and Tony Buzan. And yet, even with their methods, he found that there was a lot lacking. So he founded Thinkergy in 2005. And during this same time, he's been teaching as professor at universities, both business creativity and creative leadership courses. And his students have become his test subjects for many of his methods. But over the last 10 years, Thinkergy has also been used for some of the top companies in the world.
So what do we do at Thinkergy? We create innovators. Thinkergy provides forward-thinking companies the resources to really know how to wow. And why? Because we believe the world needs more innovators. Over the next 25 years, we believe that the number one thing that can dramatically improve the quality of life for people all over the world is innovation. And for that to happen, we need more innovators. Our vision here at Thinkergy for the next 10 years is to become the most respected ideation and innovation company in the world throughout Thinkergy, the Thinkergy Innovation Network. There is always interest in Thinkergy in France, Malaysia, Denmark, Germany, Dubai, and that will continue to expand around the globe, including here in the United States.
So Thinkergy is unique in the fact that it has 4 distinct innovation methods. There's X-Idea, the know-how wow in generating ideas and solutions. Genius Journey, unleashing innovative leaders through leadership training. Cool, which creates a culture of creativity unlimited within an organization. And Tips, Thinkergy's innovation profiling system. All the methods work together, but serve a distinct role. For instance, X-Idea is about the innovation process. Tips and Cool are about the people and the culture, and Genius Journey is about creating innovative leaders. All are important aspects of an innovation company, but one needs the other to really be fully integrated. So for instance, you can have innovative ideas, but without the right leadership, it may fail. You could also be a creative leader, but without having the right people in the right places, you could also fail. So Thinkergy offers trainings in all of these areas. And today we're going to focus on one key area, and that is tips.
So the Tips Innovation Profiles starts with a question for all of you. How many of you have taken a Myers-Briggs personality profile? Or how about DISC or Strengths Finders? Well, did you know that Myers-Briggs was created back in 1943 and DISC prior to that in 1940? That's over 75 years ago. Now, how many of you are still using methods in your business that were created 70 years ago? Probably not too many. Tips takes the best aspects of those tools and others and brings them into the 21st century, the age of innovation.
So what are the foundations of Tips? Tips is Thinkergy's people profiling method. It helps individuals understand what are their personal styles to think, work, interact, live, and innovate. And also allows companies to better use people's talents and styles with their work and innovation projects. And the key insight TIPS provides is that everyone can contribute to innovation based on their style. To give you a little bit more information on it, I'm going to share with you a video.
Albert Einstein noted, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Clearly, a fish needs to swim in the water. A bird needs to fly in the sky. A monkey needs to climb trees. And you need to do what comes naturally easy to you in an environment that supports your unique talents. But how can you find out if you're a bird, monkey, or fish? How can you uncover your unique styles that identify your natural path to success? That's easy. Simply use TIPS. TIPS is a new innovation people profiling method of the innovation company Thinkergy. TIPS combines 3 conceptual features into one elegant profiling concept: the TIPS basis, styles, and innovator profile. Let's talk about the 4 TIPS bases first. We are all attracted to one or more base orientations. These bases that also stand for the acronym TIPS are T for theories, I for ideas, P for people, and S for systems. Successful business leaders do business in an industry and environment that fits their particular home base. Secondly, the 4 TIPS styles. We all have preferred styles to think, work, interact, and live that are linked to our dominant base. What are these 4 TIPS styles? Figure versus fantasy describes your preferred thinking style by tracking if you're more left or right brain directed. Brain versus brawn illustrates your preferred work style by capturing if you enjoy more working on conceptual projects or practical tasks. Fact versus feeling explains your preferred interaction style by examining if you prefer making your case based on facts or emotions. Finally, form versus flow describes your preferred lifestyle by probing if you like formal order or prefer to freely go with the flow of life. We use the 4 TIPS bases and the 4 TIPS styles to span the TIPS profiling map, which provides us with the coordinates to position the 11 TIPS innovator profiles, our third and final feature. After we uncover your dominant bases and preferred styles with the TIPS online profiling test, we can tell you what's your personal TIPS innovator profile and related innovation style. Thereby, we distinguish 4 pure profiles that rest on one base, 6 dual profiles that play on 2 bases, and 1 multiple profile that balances all bases. Your TIPS innovator profile determines your personal style to innovate. It helps you to understand how you can contribute to your firm's innovation efforts. For example, what process stages of a structured innovation method do you enjoy and naturally perform well? How do you typically respond to creative change? And what's your individual potential to develop into a creative leader? I am Dr. D, the creative leader of the innovation company Thinkergy and creator of TIPS. Have I made you curious to find out what's your TIPS innovator profile? TIPS is Thinkergy's innovation profiling system created to show you how to wow. Thinkergy know how to wow.
So why TIPS? It's because it creates awareness. It creates self-awareness. Who am I and how do I tick? Creates people and team awareness. Who is everyone else and how does everyone else tick? It creates talent awareness. How can I best contribute to the talents? Contribute my talents to the team? How can others bring in their talents to compensate for my weaknesses? And it also brings innovation awareness. How can I best contribute to innovation and how can everyone else best do so also?
So you're probably curious, how was TIPS developed? Well, it was founded in related personality profiling concepts that were adapted and further developed by Dr. D, such as Ned Herman's brain dominance instrument, Michael Curtin's adapter innovator construct, Robert Allen Black's mind design concept, and what most people are familiar with, Carl Jung's and Isabel Myers, the Myers-Briggs MBTI concept. Now with TIPS, Dr. D took key elements from psychometric profiling tools on cognition. But what makes TIPS so unique is that he combined them with business principles found in evolutionary economics and social scientists. The best person to explain how this all works is Dr. D himself.
How did TIPS evolve? TIPS draws, of course, upon established cognitive profiling concepts such as MBTI, Myers-Briggs personality type inventory that goes back on the work of Carl Jung, Herman's brain dominance instrument, the mind design concept from Alan Black, Curtin's adapter innovator theory. I also used or got inspired by a tool in the early days from an Asian entrepreneur named Roger Hamilton, who created a concept named wealth dynamics. And somehow TIPS uses certain constructs that also relate to some of these other concepts, which we not adopted but adapted to basically integrate them into a new concept. But that was not enough to really address the dynamic and cyclical nature of business. In order to gain a better understanding of this, I also drew on theories from evolutionary economics, predominantly the works of Schumpeter, but also other people who researched long-term cycle waves, such as, for example, Kondratiev, who was talking about these long-term waves. Also, I came across by accident a concept from a social scientist named Saka, who created the concept of the social cycles, and that really ties into what Schumpeter and Kondratiev are talking about with their long-term waves, and that really provides an additional missing link that we designed into TIPS.
When Dr. D was looking at these various methods to work with his clients, they always had shortcomings or things that were missing. Why should I like this? So what should I do with the result? So what are some of the shortcomings? Well, there's varying and limiting number of construct dimensions. For example, Myers-Briggs has 4 dimensions: extroversion and introversion, intuition and sensing, thinking versus feeling, and judging versus perceiving. Curtin's adapter innovative construct has just 1 dimension, and StrengthsFinders has no dimensions at all.
There's the binary design of constructs. Well, what does this mean? We look at the world in a 0-1 black and white mode. You are either an extrovert or an introvert. But are there people out there who are both? Yes. Myers-Briggs proponents tell people they are somewhere in the middle, but in the way the profile is assigned, they ultimately end up as one or the other.
There are also too many or too few profiling questions. So what is the right amount? Mind design concept has only 9 questions. The challenge is that people feel they are too complex to be profiled with only 9 questions. HBDI uses 120 questions. Myers-Briggs, depending on test types, has over 100 questions. And so what is the optimum number? Well, according to Dr. D, as much as is necessary to arrive at a valid result. However, as few as possible to not waste people's times. TIPS experimented to arrive at an optimum number somewhere in between that we'll share with you later.
Too many or too few profiles. Curtin's adapter innovative construct has 2 profiles. You're either an adapter or an innovator. Myers-Briggs has 16 profile types. And is this an easy number to manage? It's probably quite a few. And 2 is probably too few. Some have profiles, such as StrengthsFinders. You just get your 5 strengths, but they don't say what these 5 strengths are or to your particular type. And if they would, there would actually be over 200,000 different combinations because they have 32 different strengths.
There's also no descriptive profile labels. So Myers-Briggs, in its original form, you ended up as an ESTP. However, what does that really mean? Well, later on, Keirsey added labels such as a doer. An ISTJ would be an inspector, an INFP would be a healer. However, if you happen to be on a borderline between an I and an E, and you became an ENFP, well, now you'd be a champion. So some people don't have a label at all. Some you just get a letter combination, but you don't have a clear idea of what this really means.
So no consideration of the dynamic, cyclical nature of business is included in any of these assessments. All of these concepts, except for Hamilton, neglect the dynamic nature of business. And business is a cyclical and always revolving in cycles. Different people come into the front during different stages in the business cycle. So something Dr. D considered, because he is an entrepreneur, is his knowledge about business cycles. Others are psychologists or approach it from a psychological point of view. So these are some of the shortcomings. Now we're going to address what makes TIPS different.
So how is TIPS designed and how does it resolve some of these shortcomings? Well, first of all, TIPS has 4 base dimensions: theories, ideas, people, and systems. It also has 4 personal styles that people prefer to work: thinking style, work style, interaction style, and lifestyle. And we combine these to create our TIPS profile. And then from there, we develop the TIPS profiling map, which is used to determine the 11 innovator profiles, which is also used to determine their style to innovate.
So although we have covered it in the video, let's just do a quick review of the bases and styles and what they mean. So let's first talk about the 4 base dimensions. The T stands for theories. So these are people who are interested in knowledge, facts, evidence, logic, and truth. By the way, as I go through these, you might pay attention to which ones you're naturally drawn to. The I stands for ideas. These people are interested in innovation, progress, change, creation. The P stands for people, and of course those individuals are interested in relationships, emotion, passion, and love. And the S stands for systems. These people are interested in efficiency, process, rules, and traditions.
In TIPS styles, we discover people's styles to think, work, interact, and live. So the various styles, again, are my style of thinking: figure people, like an analytical thinker or logical, and fantasy people are more creative thinkers and imaginative. Then some people are in the middle. They might be whole brain thinkers. In my style of working, there's brain people who prefer conceptual and strategic work versus brawn, who prefer operational, short-term, or practical work, and then there's both. My style of interacting, there's fact, prefer rational, evidence-based work, and feeling, who deal with, from an interaction standpoint, from empathetic or feelings-based. Or there's a blend of rational and empathetic. Then there's my style of living. People prefer form, status quo, firm order, control. And there's people who prefer flow, change and progress and freedom. And there's some who actually like both: a little bit of stability and also a lot of novelty.
So we combine 4 bases and 4 styles to construct the questionnaire, and each question has 4 alternatives. There's a total of 60 questions, 20 questions related to bases, and 10 questions each related to the 4 styles. Then this provides us an individual score and shows us where they land on the profiling map. So for instance, here is one for ideator. We cover these in more detail during the training session.
So the final result of the questionnaire is that each person is determined to be one of 11 profiles. We have 4 profiles, which are pure profiles. In other words, they stay only on one base. Then we have 6 dual profiles, which addresses 2 bases. Then we have 1 multiple profile that plays on 3 or even 4 bases. All of these profiles illustrate people's preferred style where they are most effective. For example, Walt Disney, was clearly on one base, so he was an ideator. So he preferred styles of fantasy, brain, and flow. Meanwhile, Warren Buffett is very much a technocrat. His style is of figure, fact, and form. By playing on his true base dimensions, he was able to become one of the wealthiest people on earth by devising investment strategies that go back to theories taught to him by Paul Graham, his teacher at the university where he studied for an MBA in finance.
Now let's take a quick look at each profile. The first four are pure profiles. The theorist. Life is all about evidence and the truth. The ideator. Life is all about ideas, innovation, and change. The partner. Life is all about people and relationships. The systematizer. Life is all about systems, constructed order, and control.
So then we have the dual profiles. For the dual profiles, we have the conceptualizer. Life is all about the knowledge-based creation of concepts. Oh, I'm sorry, the conceptual life is all about knowledge-based creation of concepts. The promoter, where life is all about communicating ideas to people. The organizer, life is all about service and operational excellence. The technocrat, where life is all about application of knowledge and numbers. The coach, where life is all about developing human potential. And the experimenter, where life is all about making things better by systematically testing ideas.
And finally, we have the person with multiple roles, the all-rounder. Life is about juggling many responsibilities in a balanced way. So these are the 11 profiles. Do you see a profile that might be a fit for you or perhaps a coworker?
So now let's see how TIPS works in business. So once you have profiles in each member of your team, you can more easily determine who is the right person for the job, who might do better in a new role that is a better profile fit.
It's said that there is a war on talent, and the fact is there is plenty of talent. It's just that people aren't put in the right roles. One good way to start is to create a team profile map where you can see who may be strong or weak in your organization. For instance, here's a profile map showing the team at Thinkergy. They are an innovation company, so there are many conceptualizers, ideators, and promoters. They're balanced by a few organizers and technocrats. And if you were a bank, the chart may look almost entirely the opposite. But it shows you areas where you may be weak. For instance, if you wanted to become a more innovative company, where would you choose to add talent? You might want to hire more ideators.
Now we're going to touch on managing the TIPS profiles in line with their styles to think, work, interact, and live. For instance, TIPS reveals that different styles dominate in different business functions. There's figure and fantasy. So if you're a figure person, it's legal, finance, and accounting, whereas a fantasy person prefers probably roles in marketing and communications. There's brain and brawn. Brain people deal in-house consulting, business development, strategy planning, whereas brawn people prefer or operate best in operations, production, and back office. Fact and feeling. Fact people, research and economics, feeling, sales, customer service, and front office. And form and flow. So form would be IT, compliance, quality assurance, and flow, new product development and design. So if you're going to address an issue with that department, you do it in a way that fits with their style. Now, if the styles dominate in different, if the styles dominate in different business functions, it makes sense that they also dominate in different industries. So again, we're talking about industries. Figure fantasy, figure law firms, accounting, fantasy, creative industries, advertising, public relations, etc. Brain and brawn, consulting, brawn, manufacturing, event industries, airlines, logistics. Fact feeling, fact people would be universities, think tanks, feeling would be hotel industry, gastronomy, restaurants, nonprofit organizations. And of course, again, form and flow. Form would be banks, oil companies, and flow startups, so design agencies. So this illustrates how helpful TIPS can be in career placement as well.
In addition, TIPS is also really helpful in managing potential employee conflicts. There's a conflict potential between the 4 dimensions based on style. If you start at the lower left-hand corner of this chart, within your dimension, of course, go figure. There's little or no conflict. As we move up the chart, the vertical dimensions, there's 25% conflict, and that's because there's a difference in work style, typically between the brain and the brawn. As we continue to move up the horizontal dimensions, there's a 50% greater chance of conflict. And that's because there's a difference in the thinking style between figure and fantasy. And lastly, the cross dimensions, 75% chance of conflict. And that's because we've got a difference in interaction style of fact feeling and in lifestyle between form and flow. And there are several more ways TIPS helps in business that we cover during the training. However, as you can see, TIPS provides you great insight into getting the right talent into the right jobs and helps avoid any potential conflicts.
So now let's see how TIPS relates to the evolution of business. So a new product or company usually starts from the ideator. So an ideator might want to start the new, they have that great idea, they kind of base it on some information that they found. Well, then you want to magnify that. Well, in order to do that, you need to find a promoter. Somebody who's going to go out and be able to spread the word and sell it. Once you do that, well, now you need people to start filling those orders. So you expand your market presence, you get your team together. Now that we have these, we need to get everybody kind of organized. So we solidify exactly what we're doing from a company kind of standpoint. Once we organize those services, now we got to get them systematized. Now we're trying to keep our costs as low as possible, optimize our profit margins, everything else. So in order to do that, we really need to be systems kind of people. And then, of course, we want to be able to multiply this. So it goes back towards the ideator to kind of figure what are some other markets that we could potentially be in, other industries. We've had one product, we've been able to prove it. What can we do to expand on that? And then we refer to this as kind of the creative destruction part. There's decline or even extinctions due to a radical new idea that might be in. So we want to start over the whole cycle. So this kind of illustrates exactly how the cycle kind of works. Now, where the theorists come in is that they create and disseminate research and know-how to all parts of the team. So they're sending inspiration and equipment ideas to the ideators, different development and empowerment and stuff to the people, and provide information and categorization ideas and stuff to the systematizers. But that gives you a really good idea of how it kind of works out within the industries and why it's so important to understand that everybody within a role, no matter what your profile is, plays a vital role within the entire business cycle.
So let's see how TIPS relates to our styles to innovation. Each profile has a preferred innovation style, either solo, team, or both, and innovator, adapter, or both. So if we look at the solo team, solo people prefer to work on innovation projects alone. Give them a project, they'll go back to their office and work on it. The team person prefers working in groups. Give them a project, they'll want to immediately gather people together. So the solo team people are comfortable working either way. If we look at the adapter innovator angle, the adapter people prefer working on incremental improvements. So for example, we're asking to create a new type of chair. They might add a wheel to the chair. On the other hand, an innovator type of person would prefer revolutionary changes. So they might ask, do we need a chair at all? Could we have the desk rise up to meet us or sit on a ball, etc.? The adapter innovator person who is both like working on either style. And these innovation styles are important to consider when putting together effective working groups. The solo person wants to work alone, so if you put them in with a bunch of other people, they probably won't fit and they'll create conflict. The innovator will have wild ideas that adapter people will think is a waste of time. Ideally, you will have an idea of the end result you want, either revolutionary change or incremental, and then build your team based on styles. Now, here are the innovation styles of Walt Disney and Warren Buffett. And you can see on the chart, Walt Disney is solo and team, which means he could work in both, and he's also an innovator. Warren Buffett, on the other hand, is solo and adapter. So he's an adapter of theories from others.
So how does TIPS work then when you have an innovation process like X idea? So we put the right people in the right places during different stages. So for instance, with X idea, there's 5 different stages. First of all, we figure out what is the real challenge that we're working on. We call it this exploration stage. So everybody's involved. You see that systematizers are less involved than others. Then we have the ideation stage. Here's where we actually start brainstorming ideas. Obviously, this is for the innovators and the people part. They really enjoy this part, and we include some theorists. But you notice that the systematizers aren't involved at all because, again, they're very adaptive. They don't like wild ideas. They're very systematic. And so for them, this becomes a real negative kind of thing. They shoot ideas down before they even get any kind of formation. So they're not even included in the ideation process. In development stage, where you take all those wild ideas and refine them even further, once again, systematizers are still not a part of it. However, when we get to the evaluation stage, this is where we want it. We want those inner critics to kind of come out and tell us, what are we not seeing? What's wrong with this idea? And that includes them and the theorists. And to be able to do that, and we still include the ideators because we want them to figure out solutions to solve those issues that might come up from the systematizers. Then again, the action stage. Okay, now that we have the ideas, how are we going to implement it? And of course, the theorists aren't really a part of this at all because they're more on the big conceptual things. Now we're into the nitty-gritty of how do we actually get it implemented. And they come in on the action stage. So that really kind of illustrates just the value and the reasons of how that actually kind of works in for each one.
So that is a summary of TIPS, Thinkergy's amazing profile system that combines the best elements from other systems and updates them for the age of innovation. Are there new ideas in your head right now of how you could use this system? Do you see the value it would bring to your company for better understanding of talent, less conflict, and everyone valued in business and in innovation? I'm going to do it again. So that is a summary of TIPS, Thinkergy's amazing profiling system that combines the best elements from other systems and updates them for the age of innovation. Are there new ideas in your head right now of how you could use this system? Do you see the value it would bring to your company for a better understanding of your talent, less conflict, and or everyone being valued in business and in the innovation process? Do you see how, by having TIPS, you could yield bigger results faster by saving time, money, and maximizing your talent?
Then we invite you to multiply your effectiveness with Thinkergy and TIPS. You have a choice. Continue to do what you've always done and what most of your competitors are doing with Myers-Briggs and DISC, which have been around for 75 years. Or you can let this be the moment that you decide to do something different with comprehensive tools designed for the 21st century and the age of innovation. We welcome you to learn more by going to www.thinkergyus.com or contacting us or a TIPS licensed certified trainer today.